Welcome to the Shades of Grey podcast with Dr. John Gray, New York Times bestselling author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And now, Dr. John Gray.
Welcome, everybody, to Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And I'll be talking a lot about many of the ideas in my new book, which is for women only, Be Happy With or Without a Man. But the theme today is why we don't forgive, because if you don't forgive your partner, love cannot grow. And while everybody has challenges trying to forgive and even to understand forgiveness, which I think we're going to talk about today, because it's important that to realize that to forgive someone, let's say someone keeps stepping on your foot, to forgive them doesn't mean to allow them to keep stepping on your foot. What it means is to forgive them is to recognize, to seek to understand why the problem is there, what you can do about it, and what is the most heartfelt way to solve the problem. And it can be that even the most heartfelt way to solve a problem is to realize that a relationship has too many problems. We can't solve them. And so let's build a fence. Let's get divorced. Let's separate. That's always an option. But from my side, good endings make good beginnings. And to forgive your partner is important if you're going to think, oh, they stepped on my foot too many times. I just have to leave this relationship. If you're not forgiving them when they do step on your foot, they'll keep stepping on your foot. This is the whole amazing thing about forgiveness, is that when you actually learn how to forgive and what it means, generally it creates a doorway for whatever you need to forgive to change. But if you're like a woman with a man and he steps on your foot, okay, he doesn't call, he ignores you, he's not as interested in before. And if you don't forgive that, if you don't identify what you're feeling about what he's not done, what he's done, or what he has not done, if you can't forgive that, then you're going to hold resentment inside. And when you hold resentment inside, you create the problem. The problem is he's not interested in you. He's not the guy he used to be. His love isn't there. He's shut down. Well, a big part of that is you shut down, because whenever you resent a man, you're going to literally pull the energy, the enthusiasm, the motivation inside of him for him to give to you. Men want to give to women. They just want to give in the most efficient way possible. So there's a theme on Mars, which is never do anything you don't have to do. So men will do things, think, okay, now I've shown that I love you. That should be enough. Now I can go on cruise control. That's one way of looking at it. And then you start to resent that. That's going to push them further away, where the opposite is to forgive through understanding men. If you can't understand men, you will always judge them, and inside you will not forgive them. You will, and many women do try to forgive. I mean, I'm not saying they don't try to forgive. They try to make excuses for them or whatever, and that's okay. But actual real forgiveness happens, and it can only happen is if you're able to fully understand why someone's doing what they do, why someone's not doing what you want them to do. That's the first step of it. You have to have an intellectual understanding. And there's a compassion that goes with that, or there's an empathy that goes with that. But more importantly, there's a wisdom that goes with that, which is the wisdom of, let me try to figure this out. And the problem today is that women cannot figure men out. I've seen it over and over and over without an understanding of how men and women's new challenges today affect us. Historically, women didn't have a real understanding of men. They had what was called an acceptance of men. And acceptance is men are that way, that's how they are. But there wasn't a deeper understanding. And why do we need a deeper understanding? Is because the challenges on the table have changed. All men had to do was their job. Women had to do their job as defined by our society. And then everything was more understandable, easier to forgive. But when you don't understand your partner, then it's hard to forgive. So understanding is one thing. So let's just take an example of this, which is he withdraws, he goes to his cave, he stays in his cave, he's less interested in you. And you try to, get him out of the cave. So you start being nice, you start doing nice things, you overlook it. In your mind, you're intellectually forgiving, but you're not knowing how to solve the problem because you really don't understand what he really needs to come out of the cave. What he needs to come out of the cave is for you to give him the opportunity to do something little for you. Ask for his help in something. When you ask for his help, he will become engaged. As we've explored, as we talk about this new book, we've explored a lot of the new research, which shows that men's empathy, capacity to feel empathy, which gives him motivation, compassion, gets activated when a woman asks for help, and how to ask for help in a way that's not blaming him. So to ask for help is to motivate a man. However, if you ask for help while you're resenting him and not forgiving him, then what happens is it doesn't work. So forgiveness goes at the very top. And forgiveness happens in two primary ways: one, intellectual, and the other, emotional. Because ultimately, when we're not forgiving someone, we're holding back our love. And who suffers the most when you hold back your love? Well, if you love somebody and you hold back your love, you're the one who suffers the most. I'll just say that again. I think it's a very profound concept, is that when you love someone and you resent them, you're holding back your love. You're withholding your openness, your happiness, your appreciation, your trust, your acceptance. You're holding back the feminine part of you, which is love. And when you hold back, now you're not being yourself. You're killing yourself. You're hurting yourself. You're cutting off, you're cutting into yourself. To not forgive someone is to give them room in your brain to make you suffer. And until you forgive, you'll always be holding back yourself. And life is designed to cause you to resent things, to not like things. And here's the big word, which is the hate. Now, you have resentment or you have hate. For me, it's easier to feel hate. So it's not so easy for me to feel resentful. I think it's a male female thing. I don't have a lot of evidence on that, but I know that women have a lot of resentment in their mind. They go, I do this, he does that, I'm giving more. They're comparing in their mind. That's what resentment is. Resentment is it's unfair, it's unjust. And it's forgiveness is what's going to allow us to let go of that resentment through understanding and then through emotional processing. Emotional processing is so important. And a lot of women don't admit to themselves that they're either resentful or they're jealous. These are like key things that you look bad in the light of other people if you're resentful. You look bad in the light of other people if you're jealous. So we don't want to admit that. And on the other side of the spectrum, which I think is more on the masculine side, is we look bad if we hate somebody. And I think if women hate as well, they would feel like they're a bad person. And yet these are basic biological emotional reactions we have when we're holding on to stress, where we're not finding our hormonal balance, the hormonal balance of women coming back to their female side, men coming back to their male side. But I know for me, I'm such a nice guy. It's really hard for me uh, to really, if I'm upset by something, to fully open my heart. I'll just be nice. And a lot of people are this way. You just be nice to the person, but you're no longer in my club. Okay. You're out there. You're not actually in my heart. And what we want to do is to be able to keep our hearts open. And where we want to do this the most when we talk about forgiveness, ultimately, we want to be able to do it to ourselves. That's the real gift here, is that when you can't forgive others, you're saying, if you're not perfect, I can't open my heart to you. Well, then that puts a burden on yourself, which is if I'm not perfect, I can't open my heart to myself. So that's the real benefit of learning how to forgive. Anytime you're not forgiving others, closing your heart to others, you're first of all, you're shutting your heart down. And when you shut your heart down, you shut your heart down to your ability to love yourself. So think of it all just from the point of selfishness. Learning how to forgive is really, really important. And one of the obstacles, which is the theme today, is why we can't forgive, why we don't forgive, is most common in relationships is, well, we can start with the one I just made, which is we don't forgive ourselves. If we demand perfection on ourselves, then we demand perfection on others. And this is why learning how to forgive and what real forgiveness means, means to not condemn someone because they're not perfect. So that's the first section. So when you don't feel you have to be perfect, then you're much easier on yourself. Life goes like a flow. You're more happy. You're more fulfilled. You can correct yourself. And that's how you learn to forgive. Another aspect of it is by making mistakes. And then, and in the Christian religion, it's called to repent. My background is Christian. You repent. You acknowledge I made a mistake. And what allows you to forgive yourself is when you make a sincere commitment to not making that mistake again, to self-correct. So self-correction is helps you to find forgiveness. I'll put it that way. It's very, very important. If you make a mistake and you can't sincerely desire to correct yourself and take action based on that, then what happens is it's really hard to feel the forgiveness. One aspect of that is forgiveness is returning to love. And when your true self is love. So when you forgive, you return to love, you're connecting with your true self. You're connecting with God. You're connecting with the divine energy of the universe. You're connecting with the divine wisdom of the universe. You're able to restore your motivation to fulfill your purpose in this world. Good morning, everybody, and thank you. Thanks for joining me today. We're talking about why we don't forgive, and that's a key theme that I'll stay focused on today, which is we demand perfection on ourselves, we demand perfection on others. So nice, so nice. Thanks for bringing in that little insight. That's something I ask people to do, is to, when I say something that was meaningful to you, to put it in here, and we maybe put it up on the screen. Somebody wants to know about protein shakes. We have this protein protocol of peptides, and you can spend thousands of dollars on peptides, or you can actually learn how to take a protein shake and put it in warm water with certain enzymes at 101 degrees or 105, something like that. Let it sit for 45 minutes and it will cook. It will take out all the sugar, but it will be so light and fluffy, it just goes right into your brain because it's a peptide. It's pre-digested. So this is, in a sense, what we do in life. we're learning to digest life more efficiently. You get the protein benefits if you can digest it way more efficiently. Studies that were done on the shakes that I recommend showed that when you put it in the water for 45 minutes, let it cook, let it incubate at the right temperature with the right enzymes added to it, this little formula, then what happens is it's absorbed by your body and your brain 92%. Which is normal proteins, you get absorbed about 30% at the best, if not 20 or even 10. Vegetables were like 10% protein. So this is how you really get those amino acids into your brain, which do everything in your body, along with the enzymes. So coming back to forgiveness and acceptance of perfection, it's the ultimate place to learn and grow. And if you have wisdom, is personal relationships. When you have personal relationships, then what happens is every part of you that demands perfection of yourself will show up. And it shows up by demanding perfection of your partner. Because when you get that close to somebody, they're going to inevitably step on your feet. If you have distance, you can walk around going, oh, I have nothing to forgive. I love everybody. But you'll see, we all here in this world, one of our major lessons to learn is how to forgive. Because ultimately, when we forgive others, we're forgiving ourselves. We're learning how to love ourselves. And as we love ourselves, we can love others more. Now, what's interesting is that one of the ways we don't learn how to forgive is in our childhood, when we're growing up and when our parents yell at us, let's say that, and our parents punish us. That's a mistake on their part, but according to our culture, it's not a mistake, but actually it injures a child if you don't know how to raise your children and create and motivate your children to be cooperative and confident, loving, without punishing. Punishment is an old-fashioned consciousness. It says that if you do something wrong, then you should suffer, and then I'll forgive you. So that's the idea there. Okay, so you do something wrong, I'm going to punish you, and once you're punished, now you deserve to be loved again. which is very extreme conditional love. And I have a lot of compassion for parents. I had 3 children and grandchildren now. Uh, if you don't really have good communication skills with your children, they'll misbehave. They'll defy you. They'll go against you, and you feel the only way to control them is with punishment. And punishment is a very conditional kind of forgiveness. When you keep forgiving and nothing changes, you have to leave the table when respect is no longer served. Uh, yes, we're talking about the example I gave is that nothing changes, then you shouldn't put yourself in a situation where you're going to be abused in a relationship. And that's very, very important. But at the same time, quite often when things happen and we intellectually forgive, but actually inside we will feel resentful. And we try to be nice. Being nice is like being forgiving. Oh, that's okay. That's all right. Next time, would you do it this way? That's kind of an intellectual forgiveness. But when it repeats itself, something else happens. There's a resentment that builds up. First, there's a resistance that builds up. Then there's a resentment that builds up. And then we start to feel more rejecting of our partner. Our heart is closed to them. And there's ways that we can identify that within ourselves if we're in touch with our emotions. And this is why I was talking about that phrase, I hate, which is, there's this big deal today about hate speech. You're not allowed to hate. You're a terrible person if you hate. But I mean, I'm a real loving person and everything, but I went through years, I don't anymore, might be occasional, where I'll feel I hate that person. And it's usually driving in a car. I'd be driving in my car, which is always an adrenaline state. And so you're in an adrenaline state. You're not necessarily having, matter of fact, for men, your heart is closed. When you're in adrenaline, you can't feel love. You don't necessarily feel hate either. Hate comes up when your adrenaline turns into cortisol. And for women, pretty much it's more slow build. It turns into resentment. But it can also be hate. And so we have this sort of nice consciousness. We want to be forgiving. We see the wisdom of forgiving. We will talk more about the wisdom of forgiving today and why that's so good. But I guess I already did mention it is when you can forgive others for their imperfections, you don't withhold your love. Then when you make mistakes, you don't withhold your love to yourself. Also, when somebody's made a mistake and you don't forgive them, forgive is to give love as before. Okay, so I was loving someone and whatever, and now maybe they've been stepping on my foot and it's not going to change. Something has to, we have to solve the problem. We'll put it that way. Sometimes ending a relationship is solving the problem. Sometimes going to a coach is solving the problem. Sometimes, it's changing your strategy. That's my whole thing here is that everybody's going to be stepping on each other's feet if you don't have new strategies. And this book here gives women all the strategies. All my other books give men the strategies as well. Just that women have more questions. And what my experience is that women are more complicated and they have more questions. I say to a man, do this, do this, do this, and he gets it right. He'll see it and get the basics of it. But for women, they're more complicated and it's harder for them to put what I'm asking into practice. I talk about when women are stressed, go to your partner, talk about your feelings, but then they'll talk only about their feelings about him and blame him as opposed to missing the point, which is talk about other things that are bothering you without blaming him. Whenever you blame a man, he can't feel what you feel. We already know that from my other talks. It closes his mirror neurons. He detaches. He can't connect with you. He can just think. And usually what he thinks is he's optimistic in the beginning. He thinks there's no reason to be upset. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. What's the point? Let it go. All those things, which don't help. So men have to learn, don't say those things. Just create the space for women to talk about their feelings and don't take it personally. Why forgiveness is harder for women is that because women have more estrogen, 10 times more, 20 times more. They depend on a man more. They can feel the love in their heart more than men can. So they get hurt more because you're open. You have low defenses. You're vulnerable. And if he does something that doesn't fit your belief system of I'm being loved, it hurts a lot. And when it hurts, then you have to go through a whole process of learning how to forgive how to let it go. And the process, the bottom line, it starts with, it's okay. I want to be loving and nice and whatever. But really what's going on there is you'll start to feel this resentment inside, and men will start to feel shut down. And if they would look at their first emotions, it will be, I hate that. And it can even be, I hate you. And this is why you never want to aggravate a man into high estrogen levels, put him in fight or flight. Fight or fight is, I want to fight you. I hate you. I want to change you. I want to fix you. This is a attack. Fight or flight is not a good place to be, nor is fake and fold. Fake and fold is one of the first places women go, which is, okay, I'll make it okay. I'll make it all right. I will do what you want to do. And, or I'll pretend it's all right, but really it's not all right. They also can go to fight or flight as well, but generally they'll first go into fake and fold, fake or fold, whereas men will go into fight or they go into flight. And when a man goes into flight, it quite often just to protect you. And for women going fake and fold, it's to create harmony, let's not create a fight. But what happens at those times, which is why we don't forgive, is because we don't know how to process our emotions. That's the number one reason. Now, intellectually, you can handle it intellectually, and it makes it much easier if you have this understanding of why people do things, men and women, how we misinterpret each other. That's all a big part of finding forgiveness. Is in that case, there's nothing to forgive. When you really understand somebody, there's nothing to forgive. And that is the real state of wisdom, is somebody does something here, there, whatever. It's okay. I understand where you're coming from. There's not much to forgive. We'll put it that way. It's easy to come back to love. But if we're not able to be aware of our suppressed emotions, we can never forgive. This is the whole thing. When you're upset and you find yourself just getting upset about things, why am I so upset? I feel stuck in my upset. I don't want to be upset. I don't want to be mad. I don't want to feel sad. I don't want to feel disappointed. I don't want to feel stressed. What's going on? Well, always when you're stressed, there's something that you're not forgiving. And the reason we can't forgive and we don't forgive is, even intellectually, you might have forgiven, but emotionally to forgive is to be able to acknowledge your different emotions inside. And this is called processing your emotions, which is you have to learn that there's levels of emotion. And what I know is I can feel disappointment or sadness. If I'm stressed, I could feel disappointed or some sadness. Rarely, I don't feel hurt. It's very hard for me to feel hurt because I live in such a world of taking responsibility for everything. I see that everything is the result of my actions and my attitude. If you really are grounded in that, taking responsibility for your life, you can't feel hurt unless you're just have awakened some unresolved feelings from childhood, where childhood, of course, we're hurt as children. We don't have any defenses in our brain. We don't have the ability to recognize that we're responsible for the results in our life. And we're not. We're totally vulnerable and dependent on our parents and so forth, depending on our environment. So easily we become scarred and wounded and hurt in childhood because we can't make sense of things. Parent wants to punish you. What, does that mean I'm a bad person? I guess I'm so bad. Well, that child has just been injured. So we all come from an injured culture that justified and normalized punishing children, which is this whole attitude, which is you made a mistake, you misbehaved, now you have to suffer. And your suffering, that's a punishment. Your suffering is necessary. And once you've suffered enough, then I can love you. It is kind of like crazy. That's the world we come from. It's crazy. It's hard to make sense of that as a child. So the big question that always looms out there when I talk about forgiveness and is, well, if somebody does bad things, we should punish them. Yeah, if they're adults, we should punish them. As soon as they get to like 13 years old, that's where you start having some self-awareness that you're more independent. You don't have to suffer, but you have to be controlled. You lose freedoms. So that's a big theme in my book, How to Raise Children Without, it's called Children Are From Heaven, how to raise children without having to punish. At 13, they do lose freedoms. It's not, I don't want you to suffer, but I can't, if as a parent, I'm still in charge of you. So if you don't follow my instructions, then you'll lose some freedoms to rebuild my trust. I have to learn to trust you. And if you keep breaking my trust, I'll have to take away your freedoms. It's not a punishment. I still love you. It's not a punishment. And but then as you grow older, now you're in your 20s, you're independent from your parents, uh, and you commit a crime because we have a society that says there's rules. You break the rules, it hurts other people. You should pay back that person. If you stole money, you should pay him back. If you can't pay him back, you can't. But at least you shouldn't be free to be in society if you're going to go around stealing from people or hurting people. So we have to lock you up. We have to take away your freedoms and rehabilitate you. And ideally, that should be what prisons are. They're not really that way. Some places in the world are more that way. In Norway, they don't want you to suffer. They want you to rehabilitate and learn and grow. Uh, However, when I taught in the prisons, they wanted them to suffer. Okay. There was no question about that. They kicked me out because everybody loved my workshops and they felt really good. They said they're not here. The warden said they're not here to have a good time. They're here to suffer. They're evil, awful people, and they should be punished. Okay, so that's one approach. I know it's changing. I have friends who teach in prisons now who are helping to rehabilitate people and make it a more positive experience. So that's taking the extreme. People, when they're adults and they misbehave and they commit crimes, yes, we have to be protected from them. And just as a note, when we talk about violence, we talk about crimes, and at least at the not the elite level, they're never going to get punished, but they control the world, of course, we know that. But the at the regular person level, people need rehabilitation if they have psychotic tendencies and where they can't feel compassion for others, so they steal from them, they hurt them, they mistreat them. So we forgive them in our heart. We open up, put them in a place where they can grow and learn, but keep them away from everybody else. Those are the violent people, and most of them are men. But they're only 1% of the population. Just keep in mind all the crimes and everything that goes on. It's only 1% of the normal population. And when you look at the crimes above in the elite levels, where we see it right now, aren't we seeing in the news now? There's all this crazy corruption and everything. It's really at the very top level as well. So that's at the very elite level. And then at the lower levels of education and happiness and well-being and the family. And that's where it all comes from. When I go to the prison, it's at least the ones I worked with all had just terrible childhoods, and often people will say, oh, those men, if they'd learn to cry as children, they would be fine. I said, no, it's not that they didn't learn to cry. It's that they had a lot to cry about. It's very dysfunctional home life. And that's what we're trying to do, is to create an awareness of how men and women can come together with love and forgiveness and know how we unknowingly sabotage our relationships. Those of you that follow along with me know that when a man is stressed, he has a tendency to become violent, okay? And where that comes from is a hormonal imbalance inside of him. And it can also be just meanness and cruelness and so forth, not necessarily violent, heartless, closing the heart. And what happens for him is that when his female hormones go too high and his testosterone goes too low, that means his masculinity is weak and his femininity is strong. That's when men become violent. This is biological. And so what increases femininity is depending on someone, that increases femininity. So when men become too dependent, they become weak. When men become dependent on the government, they become really weak. That's why we want to have independence from the government. People should feel their own sovereignty, that I can generate what I need without depending on the government. I say that because there was such a weakening thing that happened when for 2 years people were getting money from the government during the shutdown, completely weakened men, increased violence in the home. Men need to earn their way. And for women, they need to also earn their way to a certain extent by being more feminine and attract the support in their life, as well as be on their male side. For women, it's a challenge when they're on their male side, how to be on their male side, making money, being independent, but also feel the part of them which needs to make estrogen. So when estrogen is high in a man, his tendency to become irritable, grumpy, mad, angry, and hate and not forgive, that's going to be the symptom of corresponds to when men's estrogen is high and testosterone is low. And here's the bottom line is when you have questions, when you question a man, like, why did you do that? Well, you should have thought about that. Well, why didn't you do this? Or how could you say you love me if you do this and this and this? These rhetorical questions are just direct questions. When you do that to a man and get him to talk, his estrogen will go up. Talking about yourself and what you feel will increase estrogen, and that will cause his testosterone to go even lower, and that will create more violence in him. If we could just teach all the women in the world in these relationships where there's violence, it could be minimized dramatically just by learning. Women, don't ask men questions when they're upset. Don't talk to them when they're upset. When a guy is quiet, don't say what's wrong. uh, Last week I was doing a counseling session, kind of introduction to these ideas, and I love that statement. We unknowingly sabotage our relationships. Yes, so sad. We think we're doing the right thing. Women think that they're doing the right thing, getting a man to talk when he's quiet. It only interferes with his ability to silently process what's going on. But even still, just silence sometimes will do it for men. And for women, just talking about her feelings sometimes will, talking it out with a girlfriend or whatever, she'll feel better and so forth, be able to come back to feeling more love because your mind starts making sense of things. I used to do a fun thing in my show, which I did the Broadway show on Men from Mars, and I'd always pull out a purse from a woman in the audience, and I go through the purse, and I say, "This is women. They carry everything around, and if they can just take things out of the purse, and then there's another purse, and inside that purse, they carry everything around, and that becomes a weight that they carry, and whereas men will tend to just carry a wallet. At least that's how it used to be. Now men are carrying purses too, so everything's getting reversed. But it used to be very clear: men were men, women were women. Now, when we look at finding forgiveness, a real key there is to admit to oneself that I am in a state of resentment, I'm in a place of jealousy, or I'm in a place of hating. And for me, it was just so clear. I'm Christian, loving, forgiving, don't hate. My mother used to say, "No, Johnny, we don't hate people. We love people." She used to always say that. "Now, we don't hate people." But I was hating. I get mad, and I hate this. I hate this. Uh, and then as an adult, I became a monk, and I'm all blissed out and everything, doing my spiritual thing. But then I come back into the world, and I'm in traffic, and somebody cuts me off. Or actually, not always cutting me off, but somebody holding me back. That would usually be for me, not somebody cutting me off, but it would be I'm in the fast lane and somebody's in front of me. And I hate this. I hate that person. Who is that person? And it took a long time for me to, overcome that. It never happens now. Yeah, it doesn't really happen now. I'm just checking if it ever happens. The other day, something happened, and I just got to feel powerful. This guy honked at me. I did cut him off, but there was a lot of space, and I cut him off. And he had a big truck, and he honks at me. I can feel it's just don't get in my way. And I reacted to his anger at me. I reacted, and I felt this anger, but there was no hate in it. This was a beautiful experience. Yeah, I'm all angry. I just felt the emotion and then let it go. Because if you can feel the emotion without blame, you'll feel power. This is why people who live in fear all the time, they suppress their anger. Anger is your power, but then it becomes destructive is whether you feel angry and now you think, I want to get back at that person. I want to punish that person. I want revenge. You did that to me. I want to do that to you. It'd be like, because sometimes I'll be driving fast and I'll get in front of somebody and they have to find their way to get back in front of me. And I just laugh. I understand that part of me. It seeks revenge and not really there anymore. But it's because I process my feelings. Is this like, let it go. And that's kind of like what forgiveness is to feel your feelings and let it go. And anger is a beautiful emotion of empowerment, which is you feel the anger. It's like the temperature goes up in your body and you just feel it, but there's no blame. Okay. Just, oh, this is good. I get to feel my anger and let it go. There is blame with the first reaction is you did that to me. I'm reacting with anger. And then let it go. It's letting go of blame. And you let it go of blame with understanding, with relating. That's another aspect of it, is relating to someone is how you understand them. And it's hard for women to relate to men because we have all these different hormones and different systems inside and whatever. But you do have a male side. And once it's explained to you, you can relate to it. Just as a man, when a woman is explained to a man, he can relate to it to some extent. And that's the unity. That's the oneness of what relationships can give us. That's where through having conversation and understanding each other and knowing how we push each other's buttons and coming back to forgiveness. Because when you can come back to forgiveness, you can understand. So on a certain level, we will have less need to forgive people. There's nothing to forgive if we have greater understanding. But we don't have all that wisdom. We don't have all that understanding. So how do you find it? You start out with the best understanding you have and you say, okay, I know that I'm upset. So my goal here is to let it go and come back to finding love. And so I take some time to seek out to whatever extent I can understand. Then I go, now I have to look at that. I don't like what they said. I don't like what they did. I don't like what they're doing. And if there's anger, I don't like needs to turn into I hate. I hate that they're doing that. I hate when they say that. I hate that she did that. And you need to feel that hate. And then you can feel your anger. Sometimes you have to feel hate first before you can actually get into anger. And then you feel your anger. And then we feel that for a little while. It may just go away. And if it goes away, then you only needed to feel one emotion. But usually when people have already been storing it up inside, they have resentment. And men have, uh, when men feel also clearly, I hate that, and they want to stay stuck in that hate, you need to feel the anger. Then you feel the disappointment and sadness is under it. Then you feel what's fueling your anger is always fear. And for women, a lot, they'll feel the fear, but what's fueling their fear is their powerlessness because they can't admit that they feel anger. And it doesn't mean you can just suddenly go, okay, I'm going to feel anger. It's hard if you're a woman, it's scary to feel anger, but you're going to feel it not from the point of view, I need to tell somebody, I need to be angry at them, I need to do something to them. I'm angry, so I'm going to drop my bomb on you. No, I'm going to feel anger because I want to come back to love. And sometimes the suppressed anger, whenever there's blame, there's suppressed anger. Whenever there's jealousy, there's suppressed anger. Whenever there's resentment, there's suppressed anger. And a funny thing here is I'm thinking about this word jealousy. It's so hard for women to admit when they're jealous. Some women, yes, but then other women look down on her because jealousy. I talked about it last week. Was it last week on a show? Or maybe it was in a talk. I was in a talk I gave, and somebody came back to me and told how helpful that was. So I want to share that again. And it was whenever you're jealous with someone, you're mad at them for having something that you want. Okay, I'm jealous of you. I'm really angry that you get this and I'm not getting that. And my joke on this one is that when a man is just relaxed and happy, women actually get angry that he's so relaxed and happy because she's feeling overwhelmed. And the way she'll say is, I have so many things to do. Why isn't he helping me? I'm really angry. Also, in your anger or your resentment is you're also angry because you're jealous that he can just sit there and be happy and not see the mess. You're jealous that he has it so easy. You're jealous that he doesn't worry about this stuff. And so underneath the anger, underneath the jealousy, because it's not really a fully felt emotion, underneath that is you're mad at him. You're angry with him. And underneath the anger is part of the reason why we have jealousy is that jealousy is when I'm jealous, as a matter of fact, whenever I have judgmentalness, the only place I'm critical or judgmental is in my lane. So my lane is teaching about relationships. So when I hear other people either giving their ideas or being more popular than me, I used to be very critical of them. Now I'm not anymore, but there's a little tendency for that. If I have any judgment which has emotional charge to it, I know it's jealousy. They're getting the attention and they're wrong. And why does that upset me? Why would that bother me? Because part of me deeper inside is afraid that I won't get the attention, or I'm not getting the attention. I'm not getting the recognition that I deserve. And it's the fear that I'll never give it that causes us to feel jealous. So here's a woman who's jealous of her husband. He's basically having a fun time and she's not. And so when she's jealous of him, you get to have all the good stuff. You get to have all the fun. You get to do what you want. What about me? Okay, so when she's feeling jealous, really she's just afraid that I'll never be able to be happy. And that's taking it back, take the responsibility back, which is to feel that I'll never be able to have fun because I'm so busy and all these other things. But if you recognize it's the fear that I can't have what you have. And that's what's so good about jealousy is that if you're jealous of somebody, it's only because you can have that. You can have that freedom or that happiness or that success or that attention. For women, a lot of times they're jealous of other women and they don't realize it. They'll see a woman getting a lot of attention and everybody looking at them, and they'll start being judgmental and critical of that woman. And when she's judgmental and critical of that woman, it's only because she's afraid that she doesn't deserve to get that attention. But the only reason she feels jealous is because she can. She's worthy of that. She's holding herself back. She just doesn't believe in herself. So this is the simplest way of understanding this is for me is that my lane is being a writer. So I was jealous of other writers in the beginning. I've overcome all that. However, I've never been jealous of a rock star. I've never been jealous of a football player because I knew it wasn't my destiny. I can't have that. I don't have the body frame for it, or the purpose for it, the destiny for it, whatever. But what I'm destined for is to be a successful teacher. So in my earlier stages, I'd be jealous of successful teachers. So when you find yourself being jealous of something, it's fantastic. You can already go, oh, if I'm jealous of it, that means I'm destined for it. That means I'm going to get that. I just have to work through my feelings about that. And the feelings are going to be underneath the judgment is I'm angry that I'm not getting it. I'm disappointed and sad because I don't have it. And I'm afraid I'll never get it. And I feel unworthy and inadequate. Just see, that's self-awareness as you go into the awareness of what's inside your judgments. Because anytime you're judging someone over there, it's a reflection of your own depth of judging yourself as not worthy or not good enough or unable, yet you don't admit it. And so unless you admit your humility, you can't if you feel your emptiness, you can fill it with light and love. You can bring that in. And that's the whole thing that people just don't know. They're so afraid to acknowledge negative emotions inside of them. And when you even as a therapist, sometimes I'm helping someone find their feelings, their negative emotions. There's a place where I go, oh my gosh, they're going so dark. She's never going to get out of that one, or you're never going to get out of that. And then fortunately I have the experience and I teach this. No, when you just basically continue to explore another negative emotion, and then you explore what it is that they want. And after expressing negative emotions for a little while, feeling it, you're feeling again, you're feeling what's inside of you, you're going inside. See, what we do is we suppress negative emotions. So when you're bringing awareness to them, you're feeling them, and you're going to another one, and you're going to another one, and you're going to another one. Then you ask yourself, and so now let's talk about what you want. And as soon as you start talking about what you want, now you're going from negative to positive. And the positive just comes out. So what else? What is it that you want? What else do you want? What else do you want? What are you grateful for? That's when you're focusing on what you want. Then your mind starts to look at all the support that is available for me. And then it's like a miracle every time after you go from what I want to what I'm grateful for, what I'm happy about, if that's a possibility, what I'm grateful for, what I'm happy about, and what I understand or what I realize. And there's always a realization. It blows my mind. Whenever I've done it for myself, it's like the brain just shifts and suddenly you're no longer pessimistic. Now you're optimistic. You go from negative to positive. But when people try to be positive all the time and not even admit that they're angry or they don't like something or they're tired of something or they're resentful about something, if they don't become aware of it, that just gets suppressed. And their ability to actually fully feel optimism, to feel love, is diminished. So you have to look and feel what are the negative emotions that have been suppressed by feeling them. Then get in touch with the awareness of what you're wanting and what you're needing. Sometimes that's in there as well. Then what you're grateful for and what you understand and what you realize. And these realizations and these understandings, they come from your soul. They come from your inner wisdom. And everything is suddenly, okay, I know what I have to do. So you make your decision based upon that place. And so in that journey, it's all a process of finding forgiveness. So when you get to that place of understanding, really, there's not much to forgive, but you will feel if there was some resentment or hate, you'll feel, and I forgive them for. It's a beautiful thing. Once you've processed your negative emotions, that's where you can see where your blame is. Then you can just write it, and I forgive you for this, and I forgive you for this, and I forgive you for this. And the actual love comes back. You can say, I forgive intellectually, but if you haven't yet processed the negative emotions, then your forgiveness is, it's okay, it's all right, but it's not going to be fully felt. And when you don't fully forgive, find your full forgiveness, what happens is those things that you have difficulty forgiving will tend to repeat in your life. And that's when you look at life as not against you, but life is for you. Situations will repeat over and over and over until you can understand them, until you can forgive them with love, come back to love. But always that big block to finding forgiveness is some people say, well, I can't forgive my partner because they think in their mind, if I was to forgive them, then I have to stay with them. And so I can't forgive them if forgiveness means that everything remains the way it was. So to give is to give love as before, but love, you can love someone and know they're not right for you. You can love someone and know that this isn't the right relationship, or the way we're depending on each other should not be that way now. And the place where we can learn to find forgiveness the most is in our personal relationships, because that's where we start out with a feeling of love in our heart. So you're coming back to the love which is in your heart. Other people, other situations, they may trigger you. Okay, I can't really come back to love for that person because I don't really love them that much. And so usually when we're stuck and upset about other things around us, it's because we're not in personal relationships. So do men also feel jealous of women? I I've never been asked that question, so let me take a moment to look at it. To, nope, I personally have never felt jealous of women. I think that I think there's a reality to that. If I have to look a little more deeply, now you're just doing therapy on me. Have I ever felt jealous of women? Uh, no, I don't. But I'm looking at a lot of bitter men that do exist in the world today, and they're mad, and they're mad at women uh, because it seems that women are getting all of the support and they're not. So yeah, I would now have to concede that, yeah, particularly today, generally speaking, men are never jealous of women. But as women become more masculine and they've been getting all these extra benefits, there's like a book this thick, a huge book of all the programs to help women over the last 25 years. And part of jealousy, I'm expanding on this right now. Yeah, so the answer is if they have healthy testosterone, they probably don't. Thanks for answering that for me, Treasure Forever. Uh, However, there is this bitterness inside of men, and I think it's important to realize when there's bitterness, if we're just going to focus on jealousy, uh, that bitterness is judgmentalness. And when people are judgmental, they feel it's unfair. You're getting that, and I'm not getting this. So see, this is just another way of looking at resentment and bitterness and hate. Hate, it's unfair. Part of sometimes to help a person process their emotions is to be able to help them see, well, do you think it's fair that this happens and this happens and this happens and this, comparing things that helps us to get in touch with our resentment or our hate or our jealousy. And it's I really just, you have to be very humble to admit I'm jealous. And it's anything that makes you humble is a good thing. And then to let go of your jealousy with forgiveness and wisdom and non-judgmentalness. And another one here, this is a really great one. I'm going back in time on this exploration with you. And that was Reverend Ike. And this was this really cool Reverend. And he was always teaching people prosperity. And he would say that when you see that person driving a Rolls Royce, you say, that's for me. That's for me. And see, that's the opposite of jealousy. When people are judgmental of the rich people, they're basically saying they're jealous is really what's going on, but they'll find all these reasons why. Oh, they must be corrupt, or they must have cheated somebody, or I'm sure they're unhappy at home. And that might be true in a lot of cases. However, that rejection of someone because they have wealth, the rich people, the corrupt people, the bad people, that rejection is really jealousy. You're getting that, and I deserve that, and I'm afraid I'm never going to get it. And that's why I end up not getting it until I process and let go of the fear. And what always behind fear is the feeling of unworthiness and inadequacy. But these are in the subconscious brain. This is deep. And it all starts in childhood. And it all starts in this place where we get punished, or we see others getting punished for not being perfect. And therefore, we get this idea that you don't deserve love unless you've suffered. And you should suffer in order to feel worthy of love. And as parents, we can protect our kids by less punishment, or reading my book on how to manage them, because it's hard to manage kids. Another book, which is where you don't need to punish children as well. It has ideas and insights that my book, Children Are From Heaven, doesn't have. My daughter, Lauren, who knows all my ideas, but then she read this other book, and it makes it even better than mine, along with mine. They're all good ideas, but it's called Hunt, Gather, Parent. And it's learning to raise your children to be cooperative, and more so just to always participate with the family without having to be motivated. The self-motivation. This is such a key thing that we're missing today when we're wanting to do something in order to have our parents love us more. Instead, you do things better because it makes you love yourself more. And you have that natural inherent motivation that I just want to be a good person and so forth. And that's all within us. It's about how does it get awakened? How does it not get awakened? And the key to this is with your children. It's the same sort of thing I say about relationships, which is create the space for your husband to do things for you, little things. Well, when your children are young, create the space for them to participate with mom and dad, because all they want to do is be part of the family. They just want to be part of you. And what we make the mistake in doing is often we hand them off to somebody else. That's one thing. Or we hand them off to their laptop or their electronic device, and let that electronic device pull their attention. And then those children basically lose that natural motivation to be a part of the family. They just want to they're addicted to the phone. And that's addiction. I think next Tuesday, we'll talk more about addiction. We'll come up with a good title for that one. And that will be a good topic. It's coming up quite a bit today. So today in review, when we talk about our theme, which is why we don't forgive, the bottom line is we don't understand each other. That's one. Two is we get our feelings hurt. We bury those feelings with ideas like, I resent you, and we judge our partners, we criticize our partners, rather than realizing we have these suppressed emotions. And when you process suppressed emotions, it brings you back to your inner wisdom, back to your forgiveness, back to your acceptance, back to trusting them again, back to giving them another chance. There's a phrase in the Christian tradition is when it talks about forgiveness, and it's how many times do you forgive? And I think he said 7 times 7. My thing is you forgive until you realize you don't need to forgive. And, if it's hard for you to forgive, it's going to keep happening until it's easy to forgive. And then you get to the place where there's nothing to forgive. I'm 74 years old, so I've learned to do that. My wife has not learned to do that. So she says, how can you be so forgiving? It's just because I see myself in you. I see, everything you've done. What you do is I could see myself doing the same thing if I put myself in your situation. It's the old saying, which is walk a mile in someone's moccasins, and then you'll understand why they are the way they are. But once you come from a place of forgiveness and you come from a place of love, in a marriage where you have somebody and you're committed to them and you love them and they love you and they're doing their best and you can see that they're doing their best, you stick together. because your love and your forgiveness helps them to change. And, my wife's always saying to me, it's like, gosh, you just, I'm becoming such a better person. I've never had somebody treat me the way you treat me. And so this is my wife I married after Bonnie. Bonnie has passed. I'm with another wife, and she has a son. And so she's learning how to be forgiving because I'm so forgiving of her. And she's blown away by it. And so she decides she's going to become this forgiving person with her son. And her son was one of these guys who wanted to be a girl. And that was the first step, is he decided to be a guy. And now he's becoming really confident and strong. And he says to his mother, and he talked to his mother, and he says, Mom, you've changed, and just makes me want to change and be better. What was it? She was wanting him to take Tai Chi lessons. And his mother wanted him to do it. He was resisting it and just wanted to play with his friends and whatever. And he said, now that his mother said, it's okay, you do what you want to do. I love you always. And then 2 days later, he comes back and says, I want to do Tai Chi. Because it was just this sense of, if somebody's always trying to control you, you'll push away from it. But forgiveness is, I allow you to be you. I'm not holding anything against you. I don't have to change you. My happiness isn't dependent upon changing you. I can be happy without you changing. And when you can find your happiness, which is what's the theme of this book, which is be happy with or without a man. When you can be happy without a man changing, he wants to change. And this is such a dynamic. When a man is non-judgmental or critical of a woman, when he can be open and allowing her to be herself, it gives her a chance, particularly to change how she feels. See, this is where women really get caught up in the feeling thing, which is why I've leaned in the direction of forgiveness. For women, it's more about learning how to forgive a man as part of your life journey. And for men, their life journey is more about being accountable and saying, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I want to self-correct. I'll change. So for men, it's more about changing behavior. For women, about learning how to forgive. But as men move way too far to their female side, they also can be very resentful and angry and shut down and unwilling to forgive. And again, it's always a function of testosterone for guys. If he has low testosterone, high estrogen, then he's going to be more pouty, more resentful, less motivated, less willing to look at himself and change himself. But generally speaking, as a man, I'll speak from my point of view, I have made not so much, it's easy for me to forgive myself for mistakes in my relationship because it's a love relationship, and love helps us to find forgiveness. And to the extent I can forgive my partner, it's easy for me to forgive myself. But there are other places in my life where I've made business decisions and lost lots of money, and I have regret about that. And I just have it. I woke up this morning and one of my dreams was remembering some huge amount of money that I lost at one point due to someone defrauding me, lying to me, cheating to me, but still I feel like I was a fool. And I'm hard on myself about it. So I woke up feeling that regret, and right away, then I would say, yep, and we all make mistakes. And thank goodness that I've learned my lesson, and I continue to be learning my lesson, and I'm not going to let that happen again. So then I was able to feel good again. A lot of people will say, I have no regrets. And it's because if they were to admit to themselves their regrets, it would be too painful. And it's a hard thing to have regrets. And so for having regrets, you have to be good at being able to forgive yourself. And for me, learning to forgive my partner, which is easy to do because you love them, and you care for them and your children, you love them. So love helps you to forgive, to let go of this resentment or blame and all that. Because of my relationships where it's easy to learn how to forgive, then for life things out in the world, which would be for a man, much of his happiness and his self-esteem comes particularly from his relationship with the outer world. You're not ready for a relationship with a woman until you can first succeed in taking care of yourself. So a lot for a man is his performance in the outer world to be sovereign, to be independent, to be confident, and so forth. And then what you fight there is your failures. I failed here, I failed here, I failed here. And you analyze that, you forget, I could have done this, I didn't do that. Would have, could have, should have. We all have those. But those are harder for men in terms of their outer success world. What helps us to learn how to forgive ourselves is, again, learning how to forgive. And the best place to learn how to forgive is to start with, create problems with someone who actually loves you. It's easy to forgive somebody who loves you, who's trying to do their best, as opposed to the world. They're not trying to do their best. They're trying to take from you. I heard somebody online, and today I was listening to something. I just heard it, and it was, this is a cruel world. It's a tough place and whatever. And yeah, for many people, it's a cruel, tough world. And the world becomes nicer and nicer when you learn to be nicer to yourself. And that's the testing ground for that, is our personal relationships, where it's so much easier to find forgiveness, but you're also tested to find forgiveness again and again and again, because your heart opens. And when your heart opens, you can be affected by someone. When the world mistreats you or whatever, you close your heart to that, but you can then open your heart over here to your partner. That's where you most easily find forgiveness again and again. Then the dynamic, I'm not going to go too far into this, but this is the importance of relationship. Relationship will also trigger us to feel the emotions that we felt as a child. And because we open our hearts so much, then we feel safe. We open our heart. Then issues that we had in childhood, when we started out feeling open-hearted and safe, and then our heart was broken and hurt and rejected and so forth, those suppressed feelings, they will come up. And when they come up, they cause us to magnify whatever we're upset about now. It becomes bigger. So that's called overreacting. And I do have a book coming out, which is You're Never Upset for the Reason You Think, to really help you understand more deeply that anytime that you're unhappy, you're not being logical, you're being unreasonable, and your heart is not open. And you have the power to change that. And a big part of that power is forgiveness. And why we don't forgive is we don't understand, one, and two, we suppress our emotions. We don't know how to process our emotions. Because when you learn how to process negative emotions, you always will come back to your authentic self. And your authentic self always has forgiveness. It's love. It's unconditional. And we can find that place again and again. And another reason why we don't forgive is that we think if we forgive someone, then we're saying what they did is okay. And therefore you have no boundaries. No, you can set boundaries and say, look, I forgive you for what you did, but I also don't want you coming on my property. I have a fence here. So it doesn't mean you say yes to their behavior. It says your heart says yes to, you deserve respect. I deserve respect. Everybody deserves respect. And we all deserve to be loved. But how you show your love is your choice that you make when your heart is open. So I want to thank you all for joining me today at this time of love, where love and forgiveness is being challenged in the outer world right now, with all the war going on and so forth. And whatever goes on in the outer world will tend to come up in our own inner world, because the outer world is always a reflection of what's going on inside of us to some extent, because we are all one on a deep spiritual level. So there'll be challenges in your relationship, which is why I chose this topic today, because the world is not stable right now. And therefore, relationships become unstable right now. And this is a time to be cautious, to be forgiving, to be accepting. And if you have something to say and it comes from a place of non-forgiveness, don't say it. Process. Women can learn to process themselves. Men can learn to process themselves and come together with love. Always what's helpful for that, I'll remind you that we have the Mars Venus Heart Space app, can help model for you how to process your emotions. And also in chapter 9 of this book, I go into greater detail on how to process emotions. Thank you for joining me, everybody. Have a great day. Love yourself and love everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Shades of Grey podcast with Dr. John Gray, best-selling author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe. And follow Dr. Gray on all social media platforms for more timeless relationship wisdom. For free tools to create deeper love and better communication, visit marsvenus.com and take Dr. Gray's free course, How to Get Everything You Want in Relationships. And don't miss next week's episode of the Shades of Grey podcast, where understanding brings us closer together.